I don't know if I should do this. I don't think I should. Oh, wow. You guys, I'm sorry about my lateness, my tardiness. I had to give people a few minutes to get on here. Wow. And that light is bothering me, but I do need it for this live. What am I going to do? Because you can barely see me. It's kind of dog. Hopefully it'll make the adjustment. But good afternoon. I am Dr. Tori J. Sorry for my tardiness. Fridays are awkward, and I had an appointment with my optometrist, supposed to be out of there and back here in time, and now I'm dilated and I can't see a thing. So I'm a little dark today because that bright light is messing with my eyes. But I am on here today. We are going to talk about the impact of fatherlessness. Forgive me. Like I said, for my tardiness, it seems like on Friday something just keeps coming up. And I'm going to do my best to read the stuff that I have pulled and put together for you guys, because I forgot about the dilation part. You guys know I'm back in school, and all of this reading from the book to the computer to the paper is whoo. And so, yes, eyesight is great, but I need readers, as they put it. I need reading glasses. So I got my cute little glasses. Prescription will be back next week, but let's get into this. Let's get into the impact of fatherlessness. We specifically, I wanted to talk about anger. And I gave you guys some statistics before getting on here that went along with this topic, and I'm going to read them to you. It says, children who grow up, bear with me as I'm reading this, grow up without their fathers may come to resent the paternal figures, or it's paternal figures, I'm sorry. And due to perceived abandonment, these feelings may be fueled by a lack of trust and result in a heightened sense of anger, #behavioral disorder. So let's talk about the anger. Hey, Peyton, you're tagging Kenneth in this. Yes, I am tawdy. Once again, forgive me, I was at the optometrist, so and I can barely see. So as I'm trying to focus on my stuff, just bear with me as I'm doing that. They dilate your pupils. Y'all know that. Y'all been through this. If you wear glasses, you know. The anger. I have seen and heard stories over and over again. And some of the studies that I've read and some of the therapeutic therapy videos that I've watched for some of my classes, mothers will always say, my son does great. And we're specifically talking about boys this week. Last week, we talked about girls. I want to be specific about boys. My son is great. He does well in school. His academics are amazing. My son does well at work, but you know what? He has this anger. He's in there turning over tables. He's defiant. He's all these different things. And I don't think people equate that to fatherlessness as often as they need to. I remember talking to the Tuesday night Healing Tuesday class in group, where we were discussing one of the videos, and the mother was just, oh, good morning. Well, afternoon where I am. I don't know where you are, Gabriel. Good morning. The mother was just like, I just don't know what it is. Well, he had father figures in his life, and then that person died and that person went away and his father doesn't have anything. But she still couldn't connect the dots to the fact that his anger was from his fatherlessness. Let's go back and read this. Children who grow up without their fathers may come to resent paternal figures due to perceived abandonment. These feelings may be fueled by a lack of trust and result in a heightened sense of anger. Many of you who are grown men do not recognize that you are angry. You do not recognize that your anger is still, it comes from your upbringing. Hi, Miss Callie. How are you? Love you too. You don't realize that it comes from your upbringing that you never resolved. And so angry boys become raging men. We're going to get into this raging part. Did you know the inability to form a strong caregiver bond is associated with a hypervigilance, you always on alert, to anger, and a misproportion of hostility? Okay, I think I'm reading that right. I'm blurry as all get out. I promise you I am. But I'm trying to read what I sent to you first, and then I'll get into the topic as much as I possibly can. So when you can't have a bond the way that we should with the paternal figure in our lives, single moms are working a lot. They're working, they have a job. They may have two. They may have a job and then they're going to school. They may have a job and then you just have other siblings that they have to tend to. And then there's an adult, or a sibling in the household or in the home that tends to take on a paternal figure as well. They become a paternal figure as well. And so then you're lacking that bond that you need with the parent because they have to do other things in order to provide for the household. So what do? How are you dealing with this? How are you coping with this? It's anger because you know you deserve it. You know you want it. I don't care what people say. Oh, children adapt. Children are this. No, children don't adapt. Children cope. Children suppress. Yeah, that's what children do. Oh, children adapt. They're just adaptable. No, that's just your own rhetoric to make you feel good about how you have had to raise your children. Children don't always adapt. They adapt to as much as they need to. That doesn't mean their emotions adapt. That doesn't mean that their mental health adapts. That doesn't mean that all of those things on the inside of them is adapting to what's going on in the household. Anger is a real thing. And it's a real thing within the boys who are growing up in fatherless homes. I don't mean to go here, but I knew I would have to in dealing with the statistics. 80% of rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes. That is 14 times the average. Why are they so angry and who are they angry with? If we are speaking solely about boys and men today, and that being categorized as rapists, because I'm not here to say that only men rape. That's not my position. But if we're talking about boys and men, because we talked about women, girls and women last week, trust me, I'm equal opportunist. So I want to read something to you guys that I saw that really fueled me wanting to have this conversation. It says, when there is only one parent in the home, the mother has to discipline and cannot offer the reprieve to an extent because she has to stand her ground on the discipline. So the child sometimes internalizes resentment because the mother, by necessity, has to fulfill the masculine role to an extent and by necessity neglects the child by having to go to work. That's deep. That in itself is deep. So the young boy resents the mother not being able to nurture him full time, as well as her having to present masculine without an actual man in the house to teach him or them how to be a man. They unconsciously adopt feminine emotional responses from the mother that then turns into unrestrained and undisciplined anger and violence as an adult man by being modeled a woman trying to be a man instead of really having an actual man. I'm pick this apart real quick, as much as I can see. I tell you, my life is interesting. So the mother has to discipline and cannot offer any nurturing, any reprieve. When dads discipline the children, who do they run to? They tend to run to their mothers, get coddled, get hugged, but mother's still holding that punishment or whatever that is in place, but she's still that nurturing mom, right? But when she is the disciplinarian, there is no reprieve, there is no coddling, there is no place to go unless mother wafts between the two, which does happen. And so this causes mother has to stand her ground. And so this causes the child to internalize resentment because the mother by necessity has to fulfill a masculine role and to an extent, and she has to, just neglect the child in a certain way by having to go to work. We don't look at going to work as neglect for children. That's part of that adapting. Children adapt to parents going to work. Mothers go to work. That's part of learning and understanding. The discipline part. Mothers do discipline, but it's different when a father is in the home. There's a place of reprieve. There's a place of escape that children can have. Yes, I did wrong, but I can also get love. Yes, my father disciplined me in love, but my mother's going to show me love in the process. That's part of the journey. But when you only have one parent in the home, she's doing dual roles. She can't give you both. So you are in this very strict disciplinarian household that causes you to resent your mother because she has to present masculine. I think there are a lot of men who, when there's a woman in their life who presents masculine, they have a very difficult time not being triggered. There's a lot of resentment going on in single parent households and grown men, especially Black men who have grown up in these single parent homes where they have had a very strong mother, masculine mother. Yes, she's feminine in some ways, but in her parenting style, it's masculine. I'd like this next part is that's the easy part, right? Mothers aren't intentionally neglecting their children because they have to go to work. That's part of the journey. That's part of life. Even when you're in a two-parent home, that is part of life. Both parents go to work in this day and age. It's very rare that you don't see both parents going to work. That's not neglect. That is, we have to provide for the household. Children understand how to cope with that. There are some children who may want more time. They're going to express that. And when they express that, as parents, you need to give that to them. And I'm not talking about your adult children. I'm talking about your young children. I'm talking about your children in their developmental ages, especially those teenagers who say they don't want to have time with you, but in turn, they really need that time with you. And you have to carve it out no matter what it is they say. They need the time with you. So here we go. So young boys, we'll even say Black boys, resent, that's not present, resent their mother for not being able to nurture them full time, as well as having to present masculine without actually having a man in the home. Mom, when you say that you are mother and father, you are causing the statistics that we talked about in the beginning to become reality. Children who are growing up in fatherless homes definitely are sexually abused at a higher rate. And that sexual abuse then fuels even more anger. And then when you look at the statistics concerning 85% of children, fatherless children, or it's 80%, of rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes, 14 times the average. I need you to understand that most of those children who are going to be in that 80 percentile of rapists within the fatherless generation, they've more than likely been molested, and the anger that's there. So now you've got trauma on top of trauma. And so you got these anger problems that come from a fatherless home. But once again, it's not just the fatherless home. Those children have also been touched and molested. We can talk about R. Kelly all day on this conversation. We can have a conversation and throw him into the mix. And I have empathy for that situation, but I believe he should receive his punishment, whatever that looks like. I got 15 minutes from the next thing. That's my alarm. And so when you are raped and molested by your sister, who between the ages of 14, 15, 16, 17, there is no wonder that this man has an affinity for a 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old girl. That's where his trauma is. No one helped him. No one got him out of the situation. And now, unfortunately, he's got to pay the price for the trauma that he's now inflicted on others. That's what happens. When you don't heal trauma, you then repeat it and you inflict it upon other people. And so we're looking at 80% of rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes. Who are they angry with? Let's go down here this journey. I got 15 minutes. Many men who find themselves abusing women, physically violent towards women, they'll say, oh, they didn't see that in the home. No, you really want to beat your mama to a pulp, but you can't say that and you can't do that. And so you present that you love this woman in ways that are just like, I love my mama. That's called loyalty bond and enmeshment. If you really look at it, you resent your mother, especially Black men. You resent your mother because you know the truth now that you're a father. You've experienced some things that point you to, maybe my mother did some things that makes her human. These things don't make your mother a bad person. These things make your mother human. And too often we have deified our mothers. They are Mother Teresa. They are the Virgin Mary. They are the reincarnate of Jesus. They are Buddha, whatever you want to call it. And they're not. They're human. And you've gone through a journey and you've now become a father. And in becoming a father, you recognize that there could be some validity to the fact as to why my father wasn't around. Maybe that has more to do with my mother than I originally thought. But owning that and accepting that may be difficult because it requires you to look at your mother in a different light. You got to own the fact that it simply requires you to look at your mother as human. And it also requires you to look at your mother beyond her being your mother and look at her as a woman who came with her own set of trauma, her own set of issues. I posted a meme a few days ago, and it said, my homie said, having a baby mama helped him understand why he grew up without a father. Not the nicest meme. I added some context to it. You'll have to go down the newsfeed to see it. But that's what I'm getting at. When you grow up fatherless and then you become a father, it then makes you aware of some things that maybe you just weren't aware of before concerning your mother. Okay? So I want to be clear on that. Our mothers are human. The decisions they've made, the things that they've had to deal with and go through, doesn't make them bad people. It makes them human. It means that they have their own set of trauma that they need to heal, and we need to embrace that. We need to pray for our parents. We need to understand that our parents they have childhood trauma as well that they probably weren't able to heal before becoming a parent, before becoming your mother, before becoming your father. And now you're growing up with the same anger, if not, look, let me say it this way. Let me say this. A lot of times anger can be transferred from one generation to the next. And some of you, your anger is so multiplied and escalated because it's not just your anger you're dealing with. You're dealing with anger from generation past, generations before you. Maybe, just maybe, your mother even has her own set of anger from her fatherless journey. Right? We don't ask our parents the right questions. We don't sit in front of them and find out what's going on. So then we're just walking around angry at them for abandoning us, angry at them for not being where you needed them to be at the time you needed them to be there, not realizing that they were your parent dealing with their own childhood trauma. Not that that lets them off the hook, but it's that old saying that I cringe every time I hear it. But the older I get, the more I understand it. Our parents did the best they could with what they had. And what they had was trauma, while trying to make sure that you didn't maybe repeat that cycle. There is I'm saving my best. Are you guys watching my testimonies? I don't think you guys are watching. I have too many people on my Facebook page, and I don't believe you're watching the testimonies because the numbers are not expressing that. You are missing out on lessons, as well as just some people to give you hope and to give you wisdom on how to navigate that storm of alienation, and also navigate that storm of growing up without your father, or growing up with a father, learning that's not your father, and how you deal with that. Daniela gives some wisdom. Oh, gives some amazing wisdom to moms at the end. We're not here to judge you. We just need to know where we come from. A lot of mothers lie, and her mother was not willing to tell her, and I don't know who your father is, and I forgot his name, and I don't know that. And that wasn't going to work. But mothers are responding that way because of embarrassment. Mothers aren't lying, well, I'm not going to say what they're not doing because I can't step into the shoes of that. But I have to believe in my heart that mothers are lying to cover up past pain and trauma so that you don't have to feel it. That's what I want to believe. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe I'm tripping y'all. That's what I want to believe. But when we're looking at these numbers in these situations, behavioral disorders, 80% of rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes. And in truth, they're mad at their mothers. And then I'm looking at this information here about how mothers have to be the disciplinarian and go to work and neglect their children by going to work, and they can't be the nurturer that they need to be, and they can't be the person who gives their children a safe place. And so the children are resenting their mothers. The children are living in a space where they resent their mothers. And then they become adult men and realize something. They unconsciously have adopted feminine emotional responses. Lord Jesus, when you're dating a fatherless man or even married to one, you learn that very quickly. The responses are feminine responses. They're emotional in many ways. And they've got this from their mother. And then in turn, it becomes this, I have unrestrained, undisciplined anger and violent tendencies because as a man and as a Black man, I've been raised by my mother, which means I'm being modeled a woman trying to be a man. Can we have that for the next 5 minutes? When you were raised by your single mother, you were modeled a woman trying to be a man. If your mother doesn't have father figures around you, and I'm not talking about your siblings who were modeled the same way you were. I'm talking about the coaches who grew up in 2-parent households. I'm talking about the pastor who can give you guidance who grew up in a 2-parent household. I'm talking about people who grew up in a 2-parent home who can give you the information you need on how to be a man, not present masculine, not pretend to be masculine, not portray masculinity, not model a woman trying to be a man, but actually know how to be a man. That's why it says, instead of really having an actual male in your life. I had a lot of men around me growing up. Some of you have heard me talk about the Pettifords. Mr. Pettiford was that man during my formative years, very influential in my life. My grandfather, that was a man. I knew what a man looked like. Powerful, strong, sometimes not talkative, quiet, but when he did talk, he had a lot to say. And my grandfather was a jokester. I remember some funny stuff. I want to ask this question. I don't have many on here right now. I want to ask this question. If you were raised in a fatherless home, in a single parent home with your mother, do you agree that there are some aspects about your journey that are modeled a woman trying to be a man? You feel like you haven't gotten a grasp of manhood, like there's something missing. Or was there a time when that was the case until you surrounded yourself with actual males? I know I don't have many on here, so it's a weird time of day, I think, for some people. I want to know that answer. And even if someone answers that question in the replay, I would love to hear that. Yeah. Modeled a woman trying to be a man, because your emotional responses, everything that you've learned growing up as a response was from a woman's perspective. It was from a woman's role. And so how difficult that could be when your mother's trying to raise a man without a man around, when your mother's trying to raise a man, or she considers herself raising a man. And women say it all the time, I can raise a boy to be a man. And I'm like, actually, you can't. You're modeling this person after the boyfriend you want or the husband you want. That's from an emotional response. That's not from a real place. I think this thing right here has blown my mind, and I'm telling you, I still can't see. They said I got 3 hours before I can actually see. But being modeled a woman trying to be a man, that's what many fatherless boys are experiencing. So mothers, as I'm about to get off of here, as we are dealing with our sons and raising our boys as single women, I need you to, number one, recognize you can't do that by yourself. You can't raise a boy to be a man. You can only raise a boy to model a woman trying to be a man. That's the message from here on out. And unless you put other men around him, he's going to constantly have female emotional responses to life and situations. The number 3 thing is, I need for women to really deal with the anger and the violent behaviors of their boys so that they don't turn into grown men with that same behavior. Stop ignoring the fact because they're doing well in school that there's emotional issues going on. Going back to my testimonies, I can't wait to my last one. This weekend on Father's Day, we're going to premiere Marcus Brown's testimony. But the one that's going to hit the following week is a single mother who I was able to help. And I know y'all think I hate single mamas. You's a lie. I'm just going to tell you the truth. Her testimony's long. She went much longer than everyone else. I think it's 23 minutes long. I'll eventually chop it up, but that needs to be presented. The things that she says on this live or this testimony interview, there are nuggets, there are aha moments, and there's a mindset shift that's going to happen for a lot of single mothers watching it. You cannot just go along parenting your children and dealing with life in that way. Like every obstacle that comes, you're like, oh, not dealing with that. Oh, not. You have to deal with these things head on. And you have to deal with the emotional aspects of your children, the emotional aspects of boys being raised in single parent homes with mothers, or single mom homes, however I need to say that, is there's an anger that is just not below the surface, but during certain moments, it comes out. It comes out in school when they're violent in school. It comes out when they're bullying in school. It comes out because that's a thing too. Most bullies are from fatherless homes. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head because even if I Googled it right now, I ain't gonna be able to see it. I'd read some of this before they dilated my pupils so I could read it as best as I could possibly remember it. But bullies come from single parent homes. That's part of that anger and that aggression. And if you're an adult male and you have this aggression and this anger and this violence, stop acting like you don't. Everyone can see it but you. You just don't realize it's a part of who you are. It's a part of how you've grown up, and so you don't think that that's what it is. Everyone sees it. Everyone notices it. But you. A lot of this also translates into depression. If you resent your mother, you need to go deal with that and deal with it now. Because that resentment and that anger towards how she had to raise you is fueling everything in your life. And it's ruining situations. You can smile and present all happy, but what people see in your eyes are the gateway to the what? The soul. And the soul is your mind, your will, and your what? Emotions. And your emotions is that anger. That piece of anger that exists on the inside of you that you have yet to deal with. And in not dealing with it, you are ruining relationships. You are ruining business opportunities. You think that you should be promoted by now and this should happen and I should have this job and have that. But the reason you don't have it. Yes. No, not sunglasses, eyeglasses. Yeah, I got to get reading glasses, Miss Callie. And I had reading glasses before. This is nothing new. This is not an age thing. But if you don't deal with this anger now, it's going to continue to harm your relationships. It's going to continue to keep you in a career and maybe doing well, but it won't cause you the promotion that you know you're supposed to have. That's my meeting. So I got to go because I got a meeting that just chimed on Teams. But I want you guys to remember that boys need actual men to be raised as men. So mama, stop stepping into a role that doesn't belong to you, because what you inevitably end up doing is neglecting the child in the area that they need you the most. And you cause resentment, anger, and violent behavior in your children. All right, you guys, I got to go. I'm Dr. Tori J. I'm the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. I cannot fully see right now, but I hope that was insightful enough to you. And I'll talk to you guys on Monday during prayers. All right, see you later. Yeah, just eyeglasses. They dilated them for the eyeglasses, Miss Callie. Check to see if I have glaucoma.